So welcome to Harness the Power of Microsoft Teams, keeping connected remotely during COVID-19 and beyond. We have Bill Bobineau presenting today, and I'll be your host for the webinar. So Bill Bobineau, president and owner of BSC Solutions Group since 1984, comes with over 30 years providing managed IT services to organizations across the GTA. We are a Microsoft Silver partner since 1999. And Bill is very experienced speaking in the industry at various different events and training sessions over the years. So he comes with a wealth of knowledge for sure. And Microsoft Teams is something that I think if you're not already using, you should be using. It's a great management tool for companies and organizations. Myself, a recent addition to BSC Solutions Group, come with over 30 years experience providing solutions and services to clients. My background actually is in electronic technology, so I'm actually have that love for tech myself. So and moving on. So just our agenda today, we're going to just basically go over a few buttons on Zoom. For those of you that know Zoom, disregard that, but just for navigating through the webinar. And then we're going to move into what is Microsoft Teams for those that don't already know what it is. Some of you may be familiar with it and using it. How can Microsoft Teams benefit your organization? Then we'll get right into the demo by Bill Bobineau. He's going to go through the features in Teams. And then we're going to go through the various different Microsoft Teams licenses that are available. Then we'll get into next steps, how to get yourselves going with Microsoft Teams if you don't already use the product. And then we'll have a Q&A. And if you want to ask any Q&A questions during the webinar, feel free to do that. I'll try my best to answer those questions. And let's move on. So just quickly, if you'll notice down the bottom here, we have three buttons: a chat, raise hand, and Q&A. So the chat button we're going to just use for if you're having technical difficulties, video problems, you can't hear us that well or something like that. We'll just use that one for technical difficulties. The raise your hand we're not going to use today, but we are going to use the question and answer, which is that third button down there. So you can bring up this little window and then you can ask your question. And again, I'll do my best to answer it during the webinar, and possibly we may even unmute you and let you ask the question directly to Bill as well. Then we're going to have a couple of poll questions through the webinar. So you'll see this little window come up and everybody can answer accordingly, multiple choice questions. Also, just to let you know, the poll feature is available in Microsoft Teams. It's a great feature for trying to do a polling question on a specific topic amongst your team while you're in a Teams meeting, and then you can get the consensus from everybody as to if they liked it or didn't like it or something along those lines. Bill will touch on that through the demo. Now it's time for a poll question. I mentioned that I would be launching a poll question, and here we go. So I've just launched the question, so I'll give everybody 30 seconds or so if you could just vote. We're just kind of wanting to get an idea of how familiar the audience today is with Microsoft Teams. Just gives us a little better idea of the people that are here, if they're using it frequently, maybe you just started using it, or you're not using it at all. Okay, it looks like we've got everybody in, so I'm going to end that and I'm going to share the results. So as you can see here, looks like we have almost half the people here that use it frequently. So hopefully there's something you'll be able to take back today from today's demonstration. And then a couple of beginners, so great to see you here. And then got 22% there that actually haven't used it before. Okay, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to stop the share results there. And we're going to move it over to Bill Bobineau, where he's going to touch on what is Microsoft Teams. So take it away, Bill.
Thanks, Bob. So let me go ahead and share my screen out here and take over the presentation. So we can start off by just having a quick topic here of what is Teams. So Microsoft Teams is part of the Microsoft Office 365 suite of applications. It's primarily used for organizations to collaborate in groups within your corporation. You can include external contacts, although we do have to modify the permissions to allow that. So typically, users are certainly doing chatting on the fly. They can do video conferencing, and they can share documents and even collaborate on documents in real time using Teams. So some of the again, some of the benefits, the chat feature works well. Instead of email, you can get an immediate response. You can see the status of your coworker, so you know whether they can answer you right away or not. You can launch a meeting using a camera or just audio with a microphone and speakers. Again, you can share your screen, and you can have channels or subgroups of within a team that can be specific to topics. And I'll show you that in the demonstration. All right, so I'm going to exit out of this this share of PowerPoint, and I will go ahead and share out my Teams application so everyone can see what I'm using. Okay, so what we've got here is Teams. We're on the finance channel. So we'll start at the we'll start in the Teams tab here. And so I've got a couple of teams I've created for demonstration purposes. One I've simply called Teams Demonstration. The other one is Customer Project Demonstration. So typically within Teams, you're going to create a team, which is an Office 365 group. And usually the team is going to be one of two types of teams. So one can be where it is based on a group of your staff. So whether it's all staff, whether it's the finance department, HR, IT, sales, you could have a team specific to your staff members in your organization. You can include external people in those groups as well, as long as we grant permission for that. The other type of team that we would typically see would be a team that's geared towards a project as opposed to a group of people. So you could have a team for a specific I'll say project, but a specific installation you're doing for a client. Maybe you're doing some product research, whatever type of projects your organization typically performs. You can create a team specific to a project. You could have a team that maybe encompasses many projects, and so each of the channels then underneath the team could be a specific project name. All right, so if we look at the first type of team, this type of team would be based on a group of people. So in this case, we might decide that we're going to include, all of our staff in this. It always starts off with a general channel. So by default, there's going to be one channel created every time you create a team called general. And then within each channel, you can decide which people are going to have access to the channel. And then we can also build out the content of the channel that this team and these people will have access to. If we scan through these various channels that I've created already, you'll see we have one here called confidential data that has a lock on it. So this channel, when I created it, I set the properties of it to such that it would only allow members of the channel upon invitation. And so whoever I assign as the owner of the channel, that person or persons, you can have more than one owner, that person would then have to explicitly invite other people to be a member of the channel. With these channels, these are all set to allow anyone to be a member. And so again, the users could join the channel if they're invited by anybody else in the channel. And so this data is typically then, these are going to be channels that aren't going to be confidential. All right, so typically you probably are going to have a number of channels that are locked where you want to control. So if you have a finance or an HR channel, you're going to want to restrict the specific members that you allow to be in that channel. So typically you're not going to have a finance channel that you're going to allow all members to attend. All right, if we if we click on each of these channels, so we've got the finance channel here. If we look at the menu items across the top, it just has the default for now. So we have posts, files, wiki, and then a plus symbol such that we can add more channels to this. So I just want to open up my chat window and so I can see if anybody's asking any questions. So in this scenario, under posts, you can see Bob has posted a picture, all right, and he's done that simply by clicking down here in the bottom field and typing a response or an initial post, right? So good post, I'll type to him, and then you can see my post there. And so the idea behind this post area is that it's somewhat of a chat. You're chatting with the channel members, so you're not necessarily chatting directly to a specific person. This happens to be Bob that posted something here, and I've posted a response, and so anybody who's a member of this channel would see this history. And so if that person was away from their computer for a day or two, they would they would be able to come back and catch up on what they've missed out on. Okay, so I see.
I could just interrupt there a little bit, Bill. We've got a question from Andy. Where are notifications sent when a post is sent?
So that's really up to the channel settings. So for myself here, I can click on this channel and I can define my my notification. So I can choose to get a banner and a feed. So so the banner is going to show up down in the lower right corner of your taskbar, and you'll get a little pop-up window, much like you would see if somebody sends you a new email. That pop-up will only stay up for maybe 30 seconds and then it will go away. It will then leave a little red flag on your Teams icon that you've missed a message. The other is the feed option, and so if we go up here to activity, this would be the feed where you would see all of the posts to all of the channels that you were subscribing to. So it wouldn't be unusual if you were away from your computer, or maybe it's first thing in the morning. You might want to start out by coming in and opening up Teams and looking at your activity feed, and you would see all of the posting and activity that has taken place, since the last time you looked at it. You'll see a long history here that would go back until you see the point where you've already seen them. So you would define the notifications for your channels based on your preference on the channel. So there may be some that you want to indeed get the banner and the pop-up. Maybe you don't want the banner, you only want to show it in the feed, and so you're only going to see it when you come in and look at your activity feed. There is a default setting in Teams. We can go through the personal settings. I'll get to that later in the presentation. And so the other option here is if you have missed these postings, you can also have an email sent to you notifying you that you missed a post, and it will have the history of the post. So there's really three forms of notification: the banner pop-up, the activity feed, and email notification. For some of the channels where maybe you don't want that much chatty activity taking on, again, you might choose to simply have it post in the activity feed, and you would have to come here and catch up on it when it's convenient for you. Okay. So if we look at some of these channels here, so again, in posts here, we can see under HR, we've had a few posts that have gone back and forth. You can see here we can include pictures. If I come down to the bottom, let me maximize this so we can see the very bottom. So if I wanted to start a new conversation here, again, I just click in this field at the bottom. If I click on the format button with the A and the pencil there, this will open up a full formatting window for me so that I can type a much a much nicer contented post, so I could put a paragraph in here. I could obviously bold, put italics. I could have different styles for the paragraph if it's a heading, and so then when your post is going to look very nice. From here, if you're using this formatting option, you can also post in multiple channels. So right now we just have the HR channel selected. I could also choose to post in finance and IT, and then I'm sending the same post or announcements to all of these channels so that the different groups of people will get my post. Okay. Again, in here I can also decide who is allowed to reply to this, everybody or only myself and moderators. So again, when you're setting the permission for the channel, you can decide whether the channel is going to allow all staff to post to it, or whether a moderator must approve the post. So, you know, an example could be an HR channel where you decide to have a moderator because you don't want all staff posting to it. You only want, you know, the human resources personnel to be able to post information up to the HR channel. And then people could reply to it, and the moderator or the person posting would see their reply, but nobody else would see it until the moderator approved it. Okay. So you know, the posts are pretty straightforward. You know, we can post all kinds of content. You can have links to URLs. If you can put images in here. So this is a picture, but you could include any sort of attachment. You could have a Word file, an Excel document, PDF, whatever type of attachment that people might be able to open on their computer could be attached here for them to share. And so once an attachment is included in a post, that attachment will automatically get saved into the Files tab. So we'll give this a second. And so I guess in the case of Bob's post, it wasn't an actual attachment. It was just an image that he pasted in. So there was no attachment there. I'm sure we'll have another channel here where I've got some content in. Just trying to find one here that's got some actual files in it. Oh, none. Okay. Well, I can always add one myself. So if we were to want to do a post here to Bob, let me go ahead and I will delete that one, discard. We'll go ahead and I will browse and add a file. So I can add a file by choosing to upload from another Teams channel where I'll browse the files tabs of those channels. I can grab a file from OneDrive, or I can upload from my local computer. So the integration is quite tight with Office 365 and files and OneDrive and SharePoint. I'm just looking for maybe a picture here to post up, or some sort of an attachment. Let me find one quickly. So we'll see, this is uploading in the background. It's a PDF document, and we're going to have some pictures of snakes there in a minute. When it eventually comes up, I'll go ahead and send that. And so that would be available to anyone in this channel. So now if we flip over to files, we should see that file in here. There it is. So you can see, so if people are looking in this channel, rather than have to hunt through the posts to look for attachments, if they're aware of attachments that have been shared through this channel, they can find them quickly within the file structure here. We can also send emails directly into a channel. And so again, if we go to any channel, we can click on the Get Email Address. And this channel will then create, if it doesn't have one already, a unique email address that applies to this channel. I can copy that address, and then I could go to an email. So let me just flip over to my local computer here for a second, and I will forward an email into that channel. So I'll just grab a newsletter here.
Feel free, if anybody has Q&A questions, shoot away and type it in the Q&A. We'll try and address your questions.
So we'll just give that a second, that email to arrive in the channel here. So in the meantime, we can see here that that we've got the post here from Bob. Looks great on the snakes PDF. So we can see here an email just arrived via, so here's a post. So William Bovenue via email, and it's a Lowe's newsletter. So if it's telling us here the email message is too large to display, and a lot of pictures in the newsletter. So again, we could click on view original email. And so what that's going to do is that is going to download the file to my local computer and then allow me to open it in Outlook. Okay. And so, so again, this is a good way of capturing email correspondence between your staff in your organization and maybe an outside vendor or client. And so maybe, someone has sent you an email with information that's, pertinent to a project or to, again, a specific channel, whether it's HR, so maybe something from your benefits, vendor. And so you might choose to save that email into this channel. And so that gets archived and saved for reference. If we flip over to files now of this channel, we will see that a subfolder automatically got created of email messages, and now all email messages that get sent into this channel will be saved here as an attachment. So again, they're saved in here as with a .eml extension, which is an email extension. So in order to view this, you have to open it with an email client, which would typically be Outlook. Okay.
I have another question here, Bill, from Andy. Sorry to interrupt. Does Teams replace SharePoint for a shared storage for company files?
No, I wouldn't say so. I would say that Team actually integrates very nicely to SharePoint. So an example could be if we were to click on the plus tab here, and we will see a list of add-ons that we can include to Teams. And so one of them is a SharePoint document library. So what we will do, what we've done for ourselves and for our clients, is we would typically paste in a SharePoint link to a SharePoint document library into here, and then this will then build a new page for us to that document library. And the performance is very fast. So as far as accessing that document library in SharePoint, it's much faster to access it here from Teams than it is going through your browser to SharePoint. And with regards to the document library, you have full functionality within Teams. So you will see the full list of the documents, the folders. You can open them, edit them, upload new ones, delete them, whatever your permissions are that you have to that SharePoint document library. So again, just to answer the question, I would not see this as a replacement to SharePoint, but something that works in concert with SharePoint. Okay.
We just have a comment from Ivor. The back end of Teams is SharePoint.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
absolutely. Yes. So again, hence the tight integration with SharePoint and OneDrive, because OneDrive is also sharing much of the back-end infrastructure that SharePoint is sharing as using as well. Okay. So within these pages across the top, these add-ons, by default you get one called a wiki. A wiki is just essentially a free-form blank HTML web page. So you can create sections in here and just build on them depending on whatever content you might like to list. An example that I've used it for on a project, say with a client, is I've listed in here important contacts for the project. And so again, typically that would be some of the employees at that client, but it could also, it's very handy then to include contact information maybe for other parties that are participating in the project that aren't actually employees of that client. So that's an example of what I've used a wiki for. Okay, but really it's just, again, just free form content that you can type here and put in whatever you please. Okay, if we go to the add tab option, you can see there's There are a number of different add-ons that we can build. So most of these at the top, these are all Microsoft add-ons. So, so all of these would be no additional charge. Some of them, might require a subscription, like SharePoint, okay? But, you can have a link to a website. So again, for a popular website that your organization uses, you could create a link in Teams so that people can easily find it and access it. You can have specific documents be on a page. So in Excel, so an example might be, an expense report that salespeople use, and you want them to use the same expense report. Poly is the surveys, the polling that you can build out and use within Teams, and then Planner is a project planner. I think I have an add-on just thrown in here in one of these pages with Planner. It's Planner is a very scaled down project planner, so it will allow you to assign tasks and there we go. So we have lead generation. So this would be, give it a second here. So this would be a project planner that I've added into this team under the sales department for lead generation. So you could come in here and you could add new tasks and assign them to your people in your organization, whoever's a member of this team, and those people would then receive an email notification, and they would have access to the schedule and the charts to keep track of who's got the various assigned tasks. Okay. So again, just to summarize with the channels, we can build all kinds of different add-ons to each channel specifically. We can control who the members are of a channel. We can control how much notification we wish to receive via banner, email, and then the activity feed. And we can moderate the channel and decide who has the ability to post content to the channel. Okay. So at this point, I think I'm done talking about the Teams groups and channels. Unless anyone has any more specific questions, I'm going to move on. We can, we'll move to the chat tab. And so within the chatting tab, it's similar to the post screen that we saw on the channel. However, this posting is taking place between specific people. So in this case, I can have a chat taking place directly with Suzanne or directly with Bob. If I click on each one of these people, we can see the content changes, and I can scroll and I can see all of the history that has taken place with the chatting between these people. Again, similar to the teams and the channels there. If I click on files, this will show me this will have a location where I can quickly access any files that I have shared during this chat at any point in time. If you have a larger organization and you can see the organizational structure of the people and where they sit within the company or the organization. And then again, here you can see all the various activity that has taken place between myself and Bob doing doing this chatting in this group. So if we look at this pinned group, so I've pinned this group of Bob and Craig together. So this is a chat that has taken place amongst two people. If I wanted to add another person to this, I can add another participant here, and I will go ahead and, well, I can't because I only have 3 people in this group. So myself, Bob, and Craig. Let me see if I can. So I'm going to add in here Suzanne. And here we get the choice of don't include the chat history. So I don't want Suzanne to be able to see all the history that Craig and I have had in the past. I can choose to include X number of days of history, or I can include all chat history if I want to. So I'm going to say don't include, and I'll choose add. And so essentially now I've created a new group that I want to chat with. And so these 3 people now will receive my message that I've sent out to them. Okay. I can again, if I click over to a specific person, so Suzanne, that chat is not part of this chat. Okay. So this chat I have going with Suzanne is private versus the chat here with this group. This is amongst this group only. Okay. And so again, if you notice with the group for Bob, Craig, and Suzanne, I've pinned it to the top. It's a it's a very popular group, say, for me, and I want to see all content from them. So again, I can pin or unpin it. I could decide, you know, Bob is someone I chat with all the time, and so I can come down here and pin him to the top as well. And so I kind of can choose my favorite people or groups of people that I wish to see at any given time at the top of my list. If you don't pin them, it will simply list the people based on most recent activity. So it's not alphabetical. It's based on the last time you chatted with them. And the other thing to notice here is you can see their status. So in the case of both of these, Suzanne and Bob, they have a green circle with a little tiny check mark beside them. And so for each of these, that's telling me that they're available and I can potentially chat with them. If the different choices of statuses you're going to see would be red, which would indicate they're not available, and you might see yellow, which is away. And so those statuses do change. They can change dynamically or they can change manually. If a person wants to set their status, you can come up here and click on your name in the top right corner, and you can change your status from available to, you know, busy, do not disturb, right back, or appear away. If you don't change your status yourself, though, the status will update automatically based on two things: your Outlook calendar. So if your Outlook has an appointment in it, then your status will automatically be set to busy. And if you are away from your computer and you're not moving your mouse or your keyboard for a 5-minute period, then your status will change to away. So again, people can kind of see what's going on here. You can have control over whether you allow your status to be displayed in your settings as well. Okay.
I've got a good question here from Lindsay. Is there a way
Sure.
to delete chats? So employees who no longer work for the company, et cetera, if they've left.
Right. So you can go in and you could take an employee and you can mute them or hide them. Okay, and then they will eventually drop off the bottom. If you delete the employee entirely from the organization, then yes, their chats can be deleted. And in the channels, the team owner or moderator could control the content that has been posted in the past. Okay, so you could delete the content from the channel. So again, on your chatting, it's mostly between you and a group of other people. For the team, it's groups of people that are seeing it all. So there's different ways to control it, but yes, you can either mute it or potentially delete it depending on where they posted it.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing that you could do with a chat, whether it's here to yourself personally, you know, I can mark this and I can say save this message. And so when I mark that saved, automatically up here I got a little bookmark that I have a saved message. And so again, much like email, where you might flag an email to you know, to bring it to your attention for a later time, you can mark any messages as saved and then come back here at any given time and click on your saved messages, and this will display your list of saved messages that you want to, you know, to deal with when it's convenient for you. And so maybe I've got this message from Bob that I want to make sure I respond to or I read up on. I come to this later, I send him a response, and then I can just simply come over here and unsave the message, and now it will no longer appear in my saved list. Okay, so it's just a way to flag messages to come back and deal with them at a later time. You can do that with messages in Teams as well. So not just messages that are sent to you specifically. So again, we come here and save this message, and then it flags it for my attention to come back and follow up on later. Okay. So then the other item to, so with chatting here, again, there are some more add-ons that we can specifically add to chats. We don't really see that a lot. We mostly see that in Teams where we're doing add-ons, but you can have specific add-ons to chats. Okay. If we wanted to meet with somebody, so there's a couple of ways we could meet with them. If we see their status is green, so I see Suzanne is available, I can come over here and I can do a video call. Or I could do an audio call. So in order to do either one of these, though, my computer must have a device that Teams can talk to in order to use that piece of equipment. So in this case, I have a webcam, and I have a microphone. So it's going to allow me to do a video and audio call to that person. Okay. And once I click on this button, it's going to initiate a call to them at their end. Teams will pop up. It'll ring much like a telephone, and the person can choose whether to answer it or not. If you don't answer, Teams actually does have voicemail built into it, so that you can set a custom voicemail greeting like you would with your phone system or your cell phone. And then when people leave a message for you on Teams in your voicemail, you would get an email with that message attached that you've got a message. Okay. There is a calendar section to Teams. And so in here, this is fully integrated with your Outlook calendar, assuming that your Outlook calendar is a part of Office 365. If you happen to have a local on-premise Exchange server, this integration can be enabled, but we do need to install an add-on at your local premises in order to enable that. So this calendar, at this point, unfortunately, I've got nothing to show you because this is just a demonstration calendar. But if this was my personal calendar, you would see all of my Outlook appointments in here. I can come into here and I can request a new meeting using Teams. And this is going to, again, pull from integration with my Outlook calendar. I can look at the scheduling assistant to look at my coworkers and see what their availability is. So maybe I add Bob in here, and it'll show me, you know, whether he's available at different times. So much like you would see in Outlook. Okay, and then you can go ahead and schedule that appointment with him. I will say that I rarely would use this to actually schedule an appointment in Teams. I would simply use Outlook to do that. So Outlook comes with full integration with Teams, and so there is a Teams scheduling button in there. So all you do when you want to schedule a Teams meeting is just click on in the calendar area and click on Teams button, and it will automatically create a link and invite that person to a Teams meeting with you. Now, by default, that person will have to use a microphone or camera on a computer to do a Teams meeting with you. If you want to invite people that may not have a camera or a microphone, there is an additional subscription you can get from Microsoft that will provide telephone numbers that integrate with your account, and so people could then join the meeting using a traditional telephone and not have to use a microphone on a computer to be part of your meeting. Okay. If we pop over here and take a look at our personal settings, some of these are set, auto start by default. So typically you do want to allow Teams to run automatically. When I close it, I still just minimize it to my taskbar. I can choose some different colors if I like. The privacy option is interesting. So you have your do not disturb, but you can allow specific people to barge in or to break in even if you have do not disturb turned on. So maybe you have an assistant or maybe a coworker that's you deal with for critical issues, and you allow that person to message you using Teams even if your status shows as busy. Okay, you can block calls with caller ID. Again, typically, if you're just using this with internal coworkers, that's not something you're going to be doing. It's more so if you're using this as your phone system, which is an option. We're starting to see a little bit of inquiries about using Teams as a phone system, but it still hasn't taken off. Okay. Notifications, so we can set our default notifications here. So we talked about here banner and email. So this is where you can decide, what you want to receive that follow-up email about, right? So if people are messaging you, do you want to get an email if you miss it, or are you satisfied just with the banner? And you'll depend on, manually coming back and looking at your activity feed yourself. So you can go through each of these different areas within Teams, and you can decide again how much activity you want to receive. Okay. Again, you can manage your own notifications here. You can add people when they appear online or offline. So again, you have the option that if someone's status is set to busy, you can kind of you can camp on them so that you'll be notified when their status returns to available. Okay. Devices, this is just where you're going to simply choose your microphone and speakers that you're going to allow Teams to use. Permissions, again, typically you're going to have to allow this and turn it on if you want to use those devices. And then on the calling, this is where you would go in and configure your voicemail to record your own personal greeting. And again, you can change your ringtone and change how long it's going to ring before it goes to voicemail. You could even forward your calls elsewhere if you want to. Okay. So that's a run through of personal settings. I think I've covered off the Teams grouping, the chatting, and the activity in the calendar. So another recent add-on that might interest some people is one called Shifts. So I've taken, if you click on the three dots, you'll again see some very popular add-ons from Microsoft. So you know, Stream is one where it's much like YouTube, where you can post videos, but again, it's meant for internal use by your organization. And then Shifts is an add-on that can allow you to define shifts at your business, your organization, and you can then have staff members that request the ability to work the shift. So if you've got any sort of shift work, so if you have staff that work part-time, if you have people that are on call, any you know, right now with the COVID pandemic, you know, normally our staff would typically work Monday through Friday all day at the office, but we're now using shifts to have them be assigned which days we would like to come in the office, so that we can run somewhat of a skeleton staff, and we can control who we want in the office at any given time. So you know, whoever we assign this shift management to, we can give, you know, multiple people the ability to manage the shifts, and so they would come in here and create shifts. So you can have shifts, you know, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 type thing, or Saturdays and Sundays, whatever your shift need may be. And then you would assign employees that are going to be members of this shift group, and the employees could come in and they would request a shift. Okay, so you could add a shift, and then in here they would request the shift they want, and it would be up to the owner or the manager to approve that shift request. Okay, if you are an owner or manager, you can come in and you can manually assign them. So if you see William here, you could say, well, I want him to work, you know, Tuesday and Friday, and so you could assign the shifts to William, and he wouldn't have to be requesting them. You're telling him when he's going to work. So this is an interesting add-on that Microsoft recently made available. So they've continued to add more and more Office 365 applications, and clearly as they're adding these, they're making sure that they build out integration to Teams. So Teams is definitely a big part of their future plan for Office 365. So at this point, I think I've concluded the demonstration portion of my presentation. Bob, is there any particular questions you want me to answer right now?
Well, just a question. I know we talked about files and Excel files and having an Excel file on there. If multiple people wanted to edit an Excel file at the same time, is that possible?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So again, you would just upload and share a file within Teams, and then it will show up in the post, and it'll show up here under files. You can also create a specific page here dedicated to that file. So maybe you have an Excel document for, again, project planning, or, you know, inventory management, whatever it might be. And so yes, as long as the people come here, if you can have multiple people that come into Teams and they click on the spreadsheet within Teams, absolutely, they can simultaneously edit that document.
So I guess that saves having to email back and forth, make a change, then email it back, so you can all kind of edit it at the same time.
For sure, for sure. You avoid that whole email tag and then who's got the latest version, right? So it works quite well. So it specifically will work with the Microsoft Office suite of applications. So Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. Those three work quite well as far as sharing those documents and having simultaneous editors within the document at the same time.
Okay. Another question, can you add somebody to a Teams meeting that does not have a Microsoft Teams license?
Absolutely, yes. So it's easy enough for them to join. When the invitation goes out to them, part of the invitation is a link to download the Teams client. They can either download it on their device, so whether that's a Windows computer, a Mac computer, an Android phone, or an Apple iOS phone or iPad, they can download the client for any of those applications, and they can also just run it in their browser. The only caveat I would add, though, is if you do want to invite people that are external to your organization, there are some settings on the admin side, on the back end of Teams, where we need to allow that.
Okay, got another one, Andy, here. With collaborative files, like the Excel example, where is that file saved?
It is saved in Teams, which essentially, again, is using SharePoint as the back end.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think that's we can move on to the rest of the present. If you're done the demo there,
sure.
Bill.
So I'm going to stop sharing my Teams, and I'm just going to go back to our PowerPoint presentation here for a second, and we've just got a couple more slides to show.
Excuse me.
So I did want to talk about licensing. Teams is bundled in with many of the popular Office 365 licenses, which, by the way, just all got renamed. Well, not all, but many of them got renamed a week or two ago. So we see a lot of our clients that have the business essentials and the business premium licenses. These are quite popular, and so Teams will be part of these. It's also included in the Microsoft 365 Premium, as well as any of the enterprise subscriptions. Okay, what it is typically not included in is Exchange Online, and if you're paying simply for the Office suite, so Pro Plus or Microsoft Business. So Teams will not be part of those subscriptions. However, at this time, Microsoft is offering a 6-month free Teams license to organizations, I believe up to 300 users. So we don't know when that's going to end, but it's currently still available. And so for any clients, if you don't have any of the qualifying licenses today, you could sign up for the 6-month trial and not incur any additional licensing fees to get started with Teams. So, next steps, if you did want to get started, you would certainly look at, or even if you want to expand your use of Teams, BSC, we can certainly give you a hand. There are some things on the back end that either, you certainly talk to us about, or if you have another IT organization you work with, that's fine. Everything I showed you today was all the Teams kind of front end client that end users use on a day-to-day basis. But within the Office 365 portal, there is a back-end management portal, and there's a number of settings that definitely need to be reviewed and modified based on each organization's needs as far as privacy and sharing. So again, I talked about the idea of inviting people that aren't part of your organization, external user. You need to make some modifications to that. You want to be cautious about how much you open it up, it's one thing to allow external users to participate in a meeting. It's another thing to allow external users to join a channel. So again, you want to think about whether you want to allow that to happen. Okay.
So there might be a questionnaire sort of in the beginning to go over that with the organization, where they go through a series of questions, and then from that we could evaluate how you want your team set up.
Sure. Because I'm sure there's some questions that you may not be aware of what the options are, or that the question exists even. So I know we've been taking questions as we're going along. So again, Bob, at this point, does anyone else have any questions you want to ask about licensing or about any of the presentation?
Sure. We got some questions here, not too many, but feel free to ask your questions, anybody out there. So I have an existing SharePoint site that I would like to bring into Teams. Can I do that?
Well, again, I talked about the fact that we can bring in a document library. So we could bring in certain components of SharePoint. We can bring in libraries and we can bring in lists. But as far as the site itself, I suppose, yes, we could create a page there within the channel where we are one of the items we can do is we can share to a website. So there could indeed be a link to the SharePoint URL within the site as well.
Okay. Got another one here. Can you record Teams meetings?
Sure. Yeah. So for any meeting, there's an option. There's a button. I don't have it up in front of me, but there's a red button that says record. So you just click the button and do the recording.
Okay. Okay. I got a few other questions. Can I add guests to my team? If so, how?
Sure. I think I talked about that already.
Yep, you did. Yep.
Okay.
Not see any other questions there from anybody?
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions, Bill.
Super, Bob. So I think, Bob, you wanted to ask another poll. You know what? One thing I did want to mention before you do your poll, just we recognize the irony here that we're presenting Teams and using Zoom, and so the reason we've done that is because Teams, we think is a really great product for group collaboration and chatting within your organization and whatnot. However, Teams doesn't really have a strong webinar function to it, and so we felt that we had to use another application to be able to have to do a webinar. Zoom's got a registration page. It sends out the links inviting, allowing you to put it in your calendar. So Teams at this point is kind of lacking some of that functionality from a webinar perspective. You could potentially use it as a webinar within your own organization, but I don't know that many organizations would find Teams that appealing to use to do webinar presentations to external attendees.
Okay. A Microsoft Teams question, how is it very secure, Microsoft Teams?
It is. I mean, again, it's based on SharePoint on the back end. So Microsoft is employing all of their security measures in place that they're doing for their entire Office 365 suite. They certainly, Microsoft has lots of documentation kind of backing that up as far as the security that they have put in place. We can certainly provide some links or some reference to that material, but I'm certainly comfortable and confident in the security that Microsoft's put in place. The only thing that I would add to that as a bit of a caveat is if you do truly want to secure your Office 365 usage, you should turn on MFA for all of your users. So multi-factor authentication, which is where they would have an application on maybe their cell phone that would prompt them for either a text message or a number a key code that would change every 30 seconds that has to be typed in when you log in along with your username and your password. So really, if you are concerned about security, and you should be thinking about turning on MFA for Office 365 in general.
I believe that's one of our upcoming webinars, Bill, that we have. So
yeah, we do. Yes.
I don't see, unless there's any other Q&A questions, I'm going to launch this poll. And here we go. So you'll see a little poll out there. We just like to hear from everybody out there. What future topics would you like us to feature for future webinars? So if everybody could sort of place their answer in there, and then I'll share the results after we're all done. So, and again, if you'd like to, if you see a topic you'd like covered that is not in the list, you can click the other button and then just type in the chat window what that topic that you'd like to see. We certainly want to make sure we're covering topics that everybody wants to hear about. So I think we're almost there. I'm going to end the polling and let's see what we got here. I'm going to share the results out. So it looks like we've got using Microsoft OneDrive. We've actually had that come up a few times now in webinars, so that's definitely going to be one of our topics that we focus on next time. We've got the cybersecurity threats for remote workers. We've got some coming up on that as well. And of course, password management, very important. I mean, how many of us out there, I know I don't do it anymore, I used to, use the same password for multiple sites or programs. Definitely a no-no. So we'll be running a webinar on that as well. So, but important topics there, great. Thanks for everybody's input on that. So I'm gonna stop the share here. And I think we do have one chat. No, actually that's done. So I'm gonna stop the share results And basically, yeah, thanks everybody for attending. I think we're pretty much almost within the hour. We wanted to make sure everybody can get back to their work and not have to go over our time. So unless there's any other final questions, certainly thanks for attending. And BSC Solutions, we're here to help you with any getting you set up on Microsoft Teams. We certainly have many other services available as well. Feel free to visit our website. Anything else to add, Bill?
No, just the follow-up email that you'll send with the recording of the webinar tomorrow.
Yes, everybody will receive that tomorrow, and there'll be a copy of that recording for sure. So again, I think that's everything. I don't see any other questions coming in here. Thanks for attending. Have a great day and enjoy the weather. It's finally nice out there. Have a great day.